pick a day and keep posting your stuff, and then don't put it off later just because it's not perfect, because you can keep getting better, and then, people are come for the first version and then they'll see you improving it slowly. It's going to be good.
Welcome back, Pencil Kings. This is another episode of our podcast. I'm your host, Mitch Bowler for pencilkings.com. Today we have Kat Lavery. Kat was brought to my attention because somebody said, hey, you should have Kat on your podcast. She's launching a Kickstarter right now. And so I checked out the Kickstarter, and it looked like so much work that she's putting into what she's doing on Kickstarter. Another inspiring artist interview. Let's get to it. So welcome to the call, Kat.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going really good. Excited to have you on. I think you're the second Kickstarter person that I've had, and I'm really curious about how Kickstarter works for artists. But why don't you give people just a short breakdown about who you are and what you do?
Hi, I'm Catherine. I'm an artist, but I'm an entrepreneur, and it's hard to find people that are similar like yourself. But I used to be an architect, studied for 7 years, and I was always more into the graphics and the art and design. And then when I started working as an architect, the more I worked, the more expertise I got, and the more I started doing paperwork. And instead of doing the design things, which I enjoyed, I was stuck, on construction sites, answering emails. It wasn't fun for me anymore. So I started doing art on the side, and I always did art on the side, but I basically started to, someone wanted to buy a few of the things that I did, so I set up a store. And basically over about 18 months, I, started doing more and more, and just pouring all my time when I wasn't at work into something that I really enjoyed. Eventually, I was able to leave my job. That was really great.
Okay, I think that's a great starting off point. When you were working, how did you break up your time? Like you said, you were doing more and more art. And I know for myself, I would wake up at 5:30 in the morning. So I had 5:30 to 8:30 a.m. to work on my original website that I had. How did it work for you as you started to realize that you wanted to do more and more? Did you work at night? Did you work in the morning?
I worked a little in the morning, maybe for an hour. And so it was funny, once I actually started selling prints, I was still working at my architecture job, so I used to pack them in the morning before work. Then I would put them in the tubes and I would carry them into work. And then there was a post office nearby my office in New York. And so I would walk down to the post office at lunchtime, and then, it was kind of tedious. And then in the evening I would also work, but I was just working basically all the time. And it would be kind of frustrating after a while, just being stuck in the office. I remember I love listening to entrepreneurial podcasts. They're really inspiring. I'd be so inspired to do something, but then I would be stuck at work. So I was like, I have to stop listening to these because, I just get frustrated with not having the time to do all the stuff that I really want to do.
Yeah, I can definitely feel that from my own experience. While you were sending and bringing in these packages to work, did anybody bat an eye at you? Like, were they thinking, what is she doing with all these tubes? Or was it kind of like a secret operation nobody really noticed?
I mean, it was a secret operation. I wish it was a lot, but it was only a few at a time. When it got to the point where it was more, I basically would get TaskRabbits to take stuff to the post office for me at that point. But no, at the start, it was just like a couple at a time. So nobody said anything. I hid it pretty well.
That's really funny. And for anybody who's listening, and she's mentioning TaskRabbits. TaskRabbits are people that will do simple tasks for you within the city, like dropping off things in the mail. So I think that's a great use of those people. I guess you're listening to the entrepreneurial podcast, and you knew you wanted to do more, and you're a little bit frustrated with your job. But was there a moment when you said, "Okay, this is it. I'm going to go and do this and pursue this full time"?
Yeah, well, to be honest, I sort of took a low risk because I'm from Ireland originally, and my visa was actually almost up. I was waiting for my green card to come in, but it was going to take a few months. I basically left at the last minute to apply for my green card, so I had this excuse. So I basically told my bosses I need to wait for this work authorization to come in. So I was using it as like a 3-month runway. I had some money saved up, so I gave myself 3 months where I could basically decide if that's what I wanted to do. And then at the end of the 3 months, I was like, I never want to work for anyone else again.
That's great. At the end of the 3 months, you were able to survive on an income from the work that you were doing?
Yeah, basically survive. I did some freelance work for people. Also, my architecture job, it wasn't, to be honest, it wasn't that well paid. So it wasn't that difficult to, survive on, freelance work and selling prints and that sort of thing.
So why don't you tell people a little bit about the artwork that you do and the style and the prints that you're selling on your store?
My most favorite thing that I work on right now is my filmography series. So I take objects from film and I illustrate them, and I take all the cars from TV shows or movies and I basically illustrate each one. So I tell the story of the movie through the object. So, it's like the Back to the Future car or the RV from Breaking Bad. So I sort of started creating these large prints of just documenting film with these different objects. So I did cars, and I did aircraft, and then I did guns was the latest one. And I have like a bunch of ideas for, more. You get all the nerds coming out and telling me, which is amazing because people really help me out. Actually, since I launched my Kickstarter, all these gun people know all these different histories of the guns that I had no idea about. So they've been helping me out a lot, making sure everything's totally accurate.
That's really amazing. Did you get started with the filmography series?
At the beginning, since I was an architect, I did these cityscapes. So they were sort of contemporary cityscapes of big cities like New York or Chicago. And you just take the most iconic architecture of the city and you make it into a cityscape. So it's not a literal cityscape, and it sort of documented the cityscape in a non-literal way.
And you just put up a web store right away? Is that how it worked? A lot of artists, they want to sort of escape feeling like they're trapped in a job or in a contract or having to deal with the clients, whatever it is. There's definitely this feeling of being trapped. I'm really curious about how difficult it is to start selling your artwork online. Was it a huge task setting up the website and doing all that?
To be honest, so I didn't set up the store right away. I had like a blog, and I would just post stuff maybe like every day, just a different image every day. And then I think after a few months, I opened the Shopify store, which is actually really easy. There's a bunch of options. There's like maybe 5 really good stores, but I use Shopify because it's just so easy. It would take like an hour to set up a store. Even if you only have like one product, I think it's actually really cheap, and it makes it super easy to sell and manage your sales and things like that. As your business grows more, you can do more with Shopify, but even at the start, you can pick the lowest package and literally have your store set up in an hour.
Oh, that's awesome. To get people to buy your stuff, you said you had set up a blog for a few months, and were people already inquiring and asking you? Was it just that you decided one day to put up a store and see what happens and not really know?
People had asked me if they could buy the stuff I was putting out, mostly like friends and mutual friends. But to be honest, I was just kind of desperate to have something separate from my job. And so I didn't know if it was going to work if I put up a store and then no one would buy anything. And I had like a few months where I was just posting stuff, and then I decided to put up a store, but I didn't put it up overnight. It's like, okay, I'll be ready in a month. I actually wanted to push it back the sooner it came, because I'm like, oh, it's not ready. You want to be perfect with everything. It's like, no, I have to do it on September 20th, I think it was. Just pick a day and keep posting your stuff, and then don't put it off later just because it's not perfect, because you can keep getting better. And then, people come for the first version, and then they'll see you improving it slowly. It's going to be good.
Yeah, I think that's such great advice. A lot of us can tend towards perfectionism, and if you use that as your approach, it's so hard to get things out the door. If you publicly announce, by this date, you will be able to get this thing. And one of the ones that I've used in the past that's really effective is pre-selling things. So you sell things in advance. You say like, hey, I'm putting up, for example, these prints. If you buy now this week, I'll give you an extra 30% off, but you won't get it for another month. And believe me, that puts amazing pressure, and you will work through the night to get that stuff done on time for everybody.
If you set deadlines for yourself, you have to be ready.
Yeah, definitely. Was there one gun on your current print that's your favorite gun, or that kind of kicked it off and you thought, oh, you know what? That's a really cool gun. Maybe this would be a good project to go after.
Well, I was a huge fan of the game GoldenEye for Nintendo 64 when I was really young. And I remember seeing it somewhere, and then I'm thinking, because I remembered all these different guns, and then I was like, oh, it'd be cool to have like a print of the guns from this game or something. And then it just sort of went from there to, oh, I should do one of, all different movies, from like James Bond and Dirty Harry. And there's just so many weapons in pop culture that could be documented in a cool print.
So setting up the store seems like not a big deal. It takes about an hour. Creating the art is not a big deal. It's just like, having the confidence to get the stuff done and put it out there. But then actually printing it, it seems like shipping it is fairly easy, but for the printing process, did you find somebody locally that printed this stuff for you? Do you have like an online person that does it, or?
Well, let me tell you this. I bought a printer, like a really nice graphic printer. It cost me like $400. But I knew people who used this, and they also had it at my job, and it made really nice like Khaleesi prints. So I basically invested, $400 and just bought really nice paper, and that's how I started. My biggest print was like 13 by 19. So I just printed everything from home at the start.
And then when you go bigger, I'm assuming that there's probably people in the city.
Yeah, it took me a while to find a printer that I really liked. But I know that I have one. They're in Brooklyn, and they do really nice prints, really nice cover stock paper and organic ink and everything. So it looks really crisp. But it takes a while to find, printers that you can count on to deliver on time and everything like that. So there's a little trial and error in that regard. But once you find someone and you have a good relationship, it's not that difficult. And, it's really frustrating printing your own stuff because, if one color comes off slightly off, I'm almost like pulling the printer apart, trying to figure out what's going on. So I'm glad I'm not dealing with that anymore.
Does the printer drop ship for you, or do you have to actually get it from them and then you mail it?
So for a long time, I just mailed everything from my apartment, which was really tedious. In the last couple of months, I got a shipping fulfillment center that deals with it. So the printer actually delivers to me. I, for the most part, have to sign all the prints. I like to check so I know everything's good. And then I would ship it to them. People have said to me, why don't you get someone closer? But I really want to be able to check that the prints are all good before someone orders something and then they get something that maybe the printer didn't check properly.
Got it. Does that get a bit hectic? Like, it seems like you're juggling a lot of things, like creating the artwork, having an online presence, promoting things, checking the quality, making sure everything is going correct. If an order doesn't get to somebody, then you got to look into that. Do you get overwhelmed, or is it something that you naturally are able to juggle all of this stuff?
Oh, I totally get overwhelmed sometimes. It's some days I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't even know where to start with things. And it was worse about 6 months ago because I was literally doing everything. I used to hire someone to come to my apartment, at Christmas time when it was busy, to help me, ship things. I wanted to create more art, but I was stuck in this day-to-day. People were asking me, oh, it'd be cool if you could do this, but I literally had no time. You basically don't have time to create more stuff if you're stuck in this day-to-day thing where you're shipping everything out. So that was the next level for me, is to get someone else to do that so that I could focus more on actually creating the art. And there's still more things I need to hand off to people, which I'm working on right now, but I'm not quite there yet.
You thought it was a fair gamble. Either I'd find myself or get it out of my system.
Let's change gears a little bit here now and talk about what projects you have envisioned for the future, or what things you're looking forward to.
I'm actually working on a couple of non-print products, so taking things that I've drawn or illustrated and putting them on, t-shirts and physical products rather than just prints, and, creating a few books out of, the car print that I did, more documenting what I do instead of, just a final version of what it is. So that's what the next step is.
And while you're doing that, are you going to stop creating new art then, so you could just focus on one thing, or are you going to try and juggle both at the same time?
I'm a pretty big fan of juggling. I'll probably juggle. I like to create more things, but I feel like I can do both because I'm more documenting what I'm up to instead of just creating. So I think I can do both. I actually started a blog recently, so I'm sort of, as I'm doing more things and experimenting with, selling art online and marketing and things like that, I'm sort of posting about it to, share what I'm learning and what not to do and what to do and things like that.
And is that on your main website, or is that on a separate blog?
That's on a separate blog. It's called Little Might, more the entrepreneurship and design. So it's not all just design. It's more of how I launched my Kickstarter. I put up my last Kickstarter, basically how much money I didn't make because I did well on it, but I made mistakes with the fulfillment and things like that, and what I could do better. So it's more of like the business behind the art.
Now that you mentioned Kickstarter again, how do you feel about it? Do you feel that Kickstarter is definitely the way to go if you're doing art like you are? Or do you feel that having done it twice now, if you had spent the same amount of time and effort in just putting into your store and setting up maybe some advertising campaigns or something for your store, it would have been better spent that way? What's your feeling?
The first print I did of this series, I didn't release on Kickstarter. I just did it on my store. And then I was at a conference and I showed someone the next one I was working on. They were the ones that were like, oh, you have to put this on Kickstarter. And I was really kind of against it at first because, first of all, I didn't think you could sell art on Kickstarter originally. And then I was concerned about getting funded. And you're just putting yourself out there. It's a whole different medium. But then I figured it was sort of good for getting yourself out there because people just browse Kickstarter and find out about you. Like, I know I have a bunch of people that would never have known about me or the brand or the art unless they'd seen it on Kickstarter. And also blogs, because there's sort of a time limit on Kickstarter. You can get some blogs to promote, basically lead them back to the website afterwards. But it's basically telling your story of the art on Kickstarter, whereas I had never done that before. Like, I really don't like talking to a camera, and I'm not very natural on camera and things like that at first. So, but then people never knew all the work that went into the print, so they were like, they didn't realize how much time was spent on the print. So I realized that after doing Kickstarters that I can tell a story more than I was on my store. So I learned a lot that way. And then people tell you what they want on Kickstarter. You can ask them what products they like to see, and then they'll let you know. So you can start a dialogue between people that sometimes is not available if you just have a store online. There's a lot of pros to it. Why I did a second one. I don't know that I would do another one just because, it does take up a lot of time. But I think for anyone to build an audience, they can do it on Kickstarter.
Yeah, it sounds like it's maybe not the perfect, but it is an extremely effective way when you're starting out to just introduce yourself to a whole new audience, give yourself some hard deadlines and like push towards getting things out there, and then start having a dialogue with real customers so that you can know where you're on the right track and where you're maybe off the right track, and keep forward down that path, dealing with and fulfilling the needs of people that you're naturally attracting to yourself.
Yeah. I mean, one of my surveys where I asked people what they wanted for the next print, and people told me, and I already had the idea from the GoldenEye gun thing. And so between those two things, I'm like, okay, well, this, I already was thinking about this, and now I could really, people have told me they wanted it. So you can survey the people and figure out what to do next. So, you have your present sort of taken care of and getting stuff fulfilled, but then you can ask people what they want and literally in a survey and find out what you're going to work on next.
Yeah, that's so good. And it's similar to what we do at Pencil Kings is you just have to ask people what they want and they tell you. And you can make it a lot harder on yourself by guessing and
yeah.
But it's easy when people just tell you, hey, do this, and you make it and like, sweet, here, here's my money, and you give the product to them and everybody's happy.
Yeah, and they feel more committed to the product because they, suggested it, after people give me, the people that said, oh, this is the print that I want. Then I said, okay, this is the print you want. I set up a Google form. I'm like, tell me the guns you want to see in it. Tell me what I should not miss on this print so that you get what you want, basically. And then, that was helping me with the research that I had to do. And so, I had like 30 people fill out this Google form with all these, and people would email me like lists of ideas they had. And, it helps me with the research, but it also helps them feel like they have a piece of the product before it's even built.
So we're about to wrap up here, but do you have any last advice to somebody in a job or in a situation where they want to branch out on their own, but they're feeling a little bit nervous or they're not sure what the first steps are?
Basically, you'd start using your spare time. So sometimes it's like all or nothing with people. It's like, okay, I have to start a store, quit my job, but you can just be slow with it, start working more on your craft, whatever that is, and then start putting it out there. So, make up a Facebook page and start posting and, find people that are interested in the same things and, start sharing your work and getting feedback on it. If you keep doing that, even for a couple of months, you'll start to like grow a lot, both work-wise, and you'll have something apart from your job, which is like so important to have like something to work on that is just yours and it's not anyone else's. So I think that, one step at a time, basically.
I think it's perfect. Basically, just find some spare time. Like, if you watch 3 TV shows every week, cut out one of them and use that hour to just start doing something and then see where you can get more time and keep doing it, and then start simply, just put up, even if it's just your own personal Facebook page. I think you can still start to attract a lot of people and start to get confidence because people, each of those likes, it really, I don't know, it just does something for your ego. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh man, maybe, people do like this stuff. Maybe there's something here. All right, Kat, why don't you give people your website address and the best way that people can get in touch with you if they had any questions or if they wanted to know more?
My website is calmtheham.com, CALMTHEHAM. It's an Irish saying, calm the ham, and so that I was trying to come up with a name that wasn't something Prince. And I always say that, and I thought it rhymed at the time. Turns out it's just my accent it rhymes in. So it's kind of awkward to explain it to people because I say calm the ham, but then people spell it wrong. So anyway, that's my website. And my blog that I sort of post more of the business behind the design is littlemight.com, and you can get me at Catherine@littlemight.com on email.
And that's Little Might, like M-I-T-E at the end?
M-I-G-H-T.
M-I-G-H-T. All right. So there you have it. That is the end of this episode. And thank you so much, Kat, for being on the call today and sharing your story. I hope that people listening, I hope that somebody takes action. And if you do, I would love to hear about it. So you could hit me at mitch@pencilkings.com and tell me the first step that you're taking towards getting out of your dreadful job. Thanks a lot for being here, Kat, and I'll be in touch soon.
Okay, great. Thank you.
If you'd like to know more about what we do, head on over to pencilkings.com, where we're offering professional training for artists all over the world at a price that anyone can afford. See you there.